Good evening. I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us. Our guest for the evening is Mr. Nigel Hughes, who is coming in from Guyana. Fine?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Before I go into the sort of question, I want to take a quick break, but I want to ask you this too. What is the day in the life of Nigel Hughes like?
Chaos.
Chaos.
Absolute chaos.
You seem quite capable of managing chaos, my friend.
That's the beauty of chaos because when you're in nobody knows what's going on. So even if you do nothing, it's still you're doing something.
Oh man, let's take a quick break.
Sure.
We are back with Nigel Hughes. Nigel, why do you
All right.
practice law and how did it begin?
Sorry, someone didn't hear that.
Why do you practice law and how did it begin?
I'm actually hearing the music in the background.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to get video back for you.
Okay, good, yes.
Okay.
The question is, why do you practice law and
How
when
did I
did it
get
begin?
Yeah.
Begin.
Yeah, well, getting into law was easy. From the time I was a kid, my father literally created an environment in which he insisted that I would become a lawyer. And matter of fact, my father thought all three of his children, or wanted all three of his children to become lawyers. Fortunately, my brother, the third of his children, third and final, managed to escape that. That he became an engineer. So I mean, growing up, I just knew he had planned it that way. And by the time I'd finished O levels, I knew I was going to go do A levels, and I was going to go up and do interviews. Went up, had an interview at Cambridge. They made an offer. Ended up in University College London. Did my master's. Blah 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 blah. So that's how I ended up in law. Why do I practice law? Well, I came back, joined the firm, and thought that, I'd be a commercial lawyer because the firm was a commercial firm exclusively. They only did commercial work. And I had a conversation with my cousin, Stephen Fraser, who's also a lawyer. And he said to me, must have been within 6-8 months of my coming back, that, unless you go into an area that is entirely new and different to that your father made, to an area in which your father made his name, they're going to always say that you did it because, or you've whatever success you've achieved because of him. So I actually started doing criminal law at when nobody else in the firm was doing criminal law. I think the gods of fortune were kind. Started doing a lot of narcotic cases. I was fortunate enough to have had some successes there. Expanded, got into full-blown criminal practice. And at the same time, I was doing the commercial work, which I continue to do. But of course, commercial work doesn't get attention in the media, so people assume that you're a criminal lawyer. But really, in fact, where you really make your living is as a commercial bar. So,
What was it
in the middle of that, I do have to share this with you.
Uh huh.
It must have been a year after I got back. The Ghana Human Rights Association came to me and asked me to start doing a series of lectures in Tiger Bay. Tiger Bay was really bad in those days, about educating young people about their rights in Tiger Bay, because the cops, those were the days of the death squad, and the cops were taking out all these young guys all over the place, killing them in cold blood. They were finding bodies all over the place. And the socially challenged communities like All Boys Town, Berlin, Warlock, and all of them, they were like open prey for the death squad. And I was really, really moved by the extent to which the police literally abused the citizenry. And I made a vow then that wherever somebody was poor and powerless, and I could help them without adding to their financial burdens, I would do it, because I have seen some abuse that would make the most hardened of us, waver, and that was really the beginning of my commitment to human rights, to the commitment to having people's fundamental human rights respected. It's a big part of the reason why I practice. Everything from anti-death penalty to torture. I mean, when you really see it up close and personal, and when you really realize that people are literally taken out for no reason at all, you have to be part of the fight to protect those rights. And the extent to which the powerless are abused economically and just at the level of the human rights, you need to. Well, it certainly sustains the reason why I'm still involved.
Nigel, what was it like working alongside your father? But I want you to answer this other question first. How do you de-stress from all of that, from seeing all that human violence, and how
you never, I mean, once you have seen abuse and violence and at that level, it never leaves you. Let me say that up front. That those experiences will never leave you, and no amount of stress relief will ever help you. But what I will say is this: there are experiences that I've had in law that are just really give you a real sense of purpose. I remember the death penalty cases. I remember they had read a death warrant to a couple of my clients. So Stephen Fraser and I were our clients, and back, I can't remember how long, it must be a decade or 15 years ago. And you go to court on the weekend because they're due to be hung the next morning, Monday morning, and you go to court on the weekend and you have to persuade a judge that, to hang these people now, when they either have pending applications before the Inter-American Human Rights Commission, or whether there's a reservation about their conviction, really would be most injudicious and final. And to actually get that order less than 12 hours before they're due to end their lives, and to go in there and say to them, yes, we've got it. Nothing can beat that feeling. I mean, absolutely nothing can beat that feeling. I remember the very first time I walked in death row, because the only way you could see those inmates would be actually going up to death row. Death row is the most frightening thing to be on, because the gallows are located literally in the middle of the death row. So there are at least 4 cells that are on either side of the death row, and they invariably used to read the death warrant on a Thursday night. And from Thursday night to all the way through to Monday, the prison warders would walk past the cell of the person who was condemned to death. And, well, of course, they first have to measure them. They have to weigh them to make sure, that they get the gallows correct. And then the most frightening thing is that they would get a sandbag that was the same weight as the person who they were hoping to hang on Monday. And they would start practicing by dropping the sandbag and the gallows which was right next to the cell where this guy was.
But
Now,
that is
there could
cruel,
be
Nigel.
nothing. Yeah, you imagine the level of torture that must be.
Oh my
And
God.
of course, the prison wardens being what they are, that pass back and say to you, "Hey, Monday morning, we coming for you." That stuff really, it blew me away. So when we actually got the stays of execution, um, nothing gave me greater pleasure and satisfaction than going back and saying to them, "Yeah, you've gotten it." And touch wood, to date, none of the people who we have managed to get a stay of execution for have been hung. Matter of fact, quite a few of them died of natural causes in the prison, and recently, a few of them have had their death sentences commuted to life, and there's a whole new set of litigation that's going on it. But that, and I tell you what really breaks you up when you have the mother of a young man, and she's at her wit's end because the police have not only just arrested him, but they have absolutely brutalized him in forms that you cannot imagine. And she comes to you, and she is distraught and says, Mr. Hughes, I have no money. Of course, she's in tears. She can't control her emotions. I've just seen my son. What they have done to him is unbelievable. And then, of course, to cover that up, they give him a charge, invariably a murder charge, so you can't get bail. And she's at her wit's end, and she says, "Can you help me?" It's impossible if you have the ability to help in those circumstances to say no. And at the end of the day, when you know that somebody has been wrongfully charged and they have managed to be acquitted, given all the awful human experiences and torture that they've gone through, that has really you get a sense of purpose there. I mean, if it's rare, but you do get a sense of purpose.
Oh. Mm.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I went to death for the first time and they were practicing the gallows. So,
Uh, Nigel.
I mean, uh, I mean, just think about it. It's you're sitting down in the cell next to the gallows. They're dropping the gallows every 15 minutes, trying to make sure it's right, and they're walking past you saying, "We coming to you on Monday morning." Madness.
That is madness. It's maddening too. Let me compose myself. Have you, as an attorney, it is your objective to win all your cases, I presume. Is that an accurate statement?
as you're being hired, sorry, as a person to offer to the client the best possible advice to them in their circumstances, whether it's a commercial transaction, whether you're defending them, whether they're facing a murder trial. And if you become emotionally dislocated in the sense that you really have adopted a position, either thinking that the client is repulsive or that you absolutely love the client's cause to death, I tend in those cases to not want to do them because, of course, you're perhaps being unfair to the client. What I will say is that there are cases where the circumstances are just so outrageous that you have to do something about it. But that's different from being passionately behind the cause. I don't know if I'm making that distinction, but clearly, but that's what I would say. And I mean, there's so many on any given. I would say, and I mean, there's so many on any given day. There's so many. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say compulsive. There's so many cases where people have been abused that require legal redress. That you do have to at some stage say that draw the line and say that this one is just one too far. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But in Guyana, the level to which the police have slaughtered innocent people, tortured them, brutalized them. I never forget. I couldn't have been more than 2 months into practice, and I went into CID headquarters downstairs where the death squad had its room. There was a room right underneath CID. All the famous characters were there. I was going to see a client, and this client, when I got there, was strapped to a chair, and there was a piece of wire, rope, something tied around one of his testicles, and they were slamming the door closed, trying to get him to confess to some offense. And I mean, as a young lawyer, I've seen that, and these are all heavily armed, very big, aggressive-looking, and they're always dressed in dark colors. Men, you think, Jesus, this could only come out of the medieval times, and pretty serious stuff. You see things that you would rather not have to recall.
Are you hopeful for constitutional change, and what would be a good strat? Well, are you hopeful for constitutional change, Nigel?
Yeah, I am, and I tell you why I'm hopeful. We have started, or I'm leading a charge to go into the community to actually talk about constitutional change, because constitutional change to people who are trying to make their daily living is a dry and remote subject. Last weekend we were in Victory Valley, Linden, which very, very poignantly had been previously called the Valley of the Tears. And I had a most highly interactive session with the residents of Victory Valley on constitutional change and the provisions of the Constitution that need changing, and how that related to the fact that they were in the circumstances that they were in, because of course they had no influence in the decision-making process, etc., etc. And I think that I am hopeful, because I think the more that you go out and discuss with people the real impact of the Constitution and how it is responsible for them being in the circumstances, we continue to persevere.
Yes, the constitutional change and the discussion and how it can affect.
Did you hear the bit about going into Victory
yes,
Valley?
Yes, exactly. I heard all of that.
Yeah. I think it has to. You have to go to the people, explain to them what the Constitution actually says now, how that actually is related to their present condition, and how you will have it, how any change to it or restructuring of the Constitution will favorably impact upon their circumstances.
Mm-hmm. In the chat room, Nicholas said, long live the people of the People's Cooperative Republic of Guyana, a nation broken but not shattered, a nation which, although doubtful of its destiny at this time, screams with much potential. Really said, just to let Nigel know, 9 of us are together, liming and watching. We are visiting our dear land soon. Nicholas, we shall never give up, and the fight is for every Guyanese of every race, class, religion, and background. I care not about AFC, PPP, PNC, APNU, and whatever else. The only letters that should matter are these: GUYNA. We should all feel this way and play our part, stand together. Enough love and respect from Jamaica. Good night to all in the chat room. Good night to our host. Good night to our honored guests. Blessings. Really, don't they deserve to die if they murdered someone? Just did a poll. 8 of 9 of us agree with death penalty. All right. Another.
Selwyn, I will be the first to admit that death penalty is an emotive, very emotive subject, particularly in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is, long before you come to your position in death penalty in the Caribbean, one of the things you have to ask yourself is, are you sure that given all the challenges of the investigative capacity of the various police forces throughout the Caribbean, are you sure that you want to put to death somebody based on the ability of the police force, whether it's in Guyana, Jamaica, or Trinidad, to actually get the right person, charge them, and that the jury, based on the evidence presented, based on those investigations, come to the right decision? And really, if we had more scientifically based prosecutions, certainly in Guyana, I can't speak for the rest of the Caribbean, we could then move to discuss whether the death penalty is appropriate. But what I see people get convicted of, what they get convicted on, the evidence is presented quite often on pure confession evidence obtained from police officers who are notorious for extracting confessions in circumstances that are oppressive. I am not so sure that one ought to be keen to say that after that sort of investigation and on that sort of evidence, you want to put anybody away permanently.
Mm-hmm. And Sam said, asked, are you advocating for people to elect and recall their own MPs?
Yeah, I think that would be part of the part of the menu of measures, if I can use that term, that should be there, because I think the more and more people have control over their MPs and the positions they adopt, and it's not something that happens only every 5 years, I think you will end up getting better representation from your MPs.
Nigel, what is your proudest moment as an attorney?
Proud moment. What would be my? I don't know. That's a hard question, Selwyn. I'm not.
Okay. I mean, we can come back to that or let it go.
I mean, there were more. There are memorable moments. I don't know if I would necessarily.
Or one of them. One of them.
I would say there were proud moments. I mean, there were certainly several memorable moments. I don't know really. I suppose memorable. Winning your first case of the Caribbean Court of Justice would have been memorable, but I'm not sure it's a proud moment. I beg to pass on that one because I can't come to anything.
What is on your professional bucket list?
My professional bucket list?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if it's professional. I'd like to be part of a team that restructures and part of the team that restructures our constitution so that we end up with a product that really delivers real power to the people and allows all our communities to participate in executive decision making. I know that's half legal, half political, but that would be something I'd really enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm. What is one thing that people will be surprised to know about you?
You're asking some real difficult questions. I don't know what people know about me, to be very frank. So I'm not sure what they'd be surprised to know about me. I suppose in my overweight state that I climbed Mount Roraima 3 times.
3 times, Nigel?
Yeah. But I climbed it from the easy side. I climbed it from Venezuela. I didn't climb it from the Guyana side. So, but I mean, I don't think many people know that. It's not something I advertise, but I suppose it would be something that's that people would probably be surprised to learn.
Oh, I wish you weren't so busy, my friend. Of of all the various areas of law you practice, which is your favorite?
My favorite would have to be human rights.
Human.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Human rights and constitutional and constitutional matters. Yeah.
What is the best legal case you ever fought in court?
Um, best in terms of what? You mean technical skills? Best in terms of result? Best in terms of?
Let's
I'm not
let's
trying to
take that,
avoid it.
Nigel. Let's take the first one, technical skills.
Best in terms of technical skills. What would be one of my best cases for technical skills? Sure, it would be some obscure commercial case, but I mean, I can't think of one immediately, but you know, because yeah, technical skills would come in there. I can't, you know, think of which one specifically that way. In terms of absolutely enjoying what I did, I absolutely enjoyed the cross-examination of Dr. Luncheon because I mean, I have the greatest respect for his intellect. That was interesting. You know, and there've been events like that. As you go through the years, you tend to forget a lot of the earlier ones. There was one case where the RCMP had thought they had the case lock, stock, and barrel. Lock, stock, and closed, and they thought they had a definite case. They were prosecuting some Guyanese people for narcotic trafficking, and they had all the audio-visual evidence, and they thought that it was a clear-cut case. And it turned out, because of course it's easy to blame local law enforcement if there's a problem with the audiovisual evidence, but of course it turned out that they themselves had caused their own evidence to be tainted. And after having sent down their the best the RCMP had, we won the case, and as a result of that, all the other cases they didn't pursue anymore. So I mean, that was a pretty interesting moment there. I mean, nothing can beat the feeling where you think a guy who's been wrongfully charged gets off, and he comes out of the dock, and he or she is grateful.
We're almost through. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
What would I tell my 15-year-old self? It depends on in what context do I
pick one, counselor.
Huh?
Pick
what
one.
Would I tell my 15-year-old self? I don't know. I probably would have spent a lot more time on athletics. I mean, I thought I had a talent for it, but I just, the guy doesn't have the facilities, and I wasn't interested. But I mean, what would I tell myself at 15? I certainly tell. I was dating my wife at 15. She was the head girl of Bishop's. St. Rose's, and because she was big in the protest against Burnham at the time when they tried to move the headmasters and mistress around. Her father pulled her out of Guyana because he didn't think it was safe for her to be here. I would probably, he didn't think it was safe for her to be here. I would probably, if I go back to my 15-year-old self, I'd say to Kathy, look, just take it easy. You can stay in Ghana. We don't have to lose you for that period of time, because we got separated for about 10, 15 years, and then reconnected. Not 15, 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then reconnected.
What are you most thankful for?
In my life?
Yeah.
There'd be a couple of things. There'd be my parents, absolutely my parents, my family, having the siblings I do, having my wife, fortunate that I've been touched with, blessed with. Those would be some of the things that I would certainly be thankful for.
And the last question of the evening, what makes you laugh out loud?
I would have to say the Parliament in Ghana. And it wasn't so real. You couldn't ask for better entertainment, really.
The Parliament.
Man. Listen, You couldn't pay for the stuff you see the guy had a problem, man.
Oh gosh, I never expected that. Oh, Nigel, there are two more comments in the chat room. Really said, once all given evidence is proven, yes, just as we 8 agree on the death penalty in UK, USA, or anywhere in the world. We do remember that brave lady, that Kathy. Well, I sort of read those two comments together. The last comment is by itself. We do remember that, and I think they're referring to Kathy protesting while she was at St. Rose's.
Right.
And brave lady, that Kathy. So, Nigel, thank you. You've been a sport as usual.
Thank you.
You know, thanks
Thank you.
a lot.
It's a privilege to have been on the program. And Selwyn, I want to congratulate you on doing this fantastic work you do. I hope it gets archived because it captures. I've looked, the range of people that you've had on. It really is just an essential part of our history being captured, and you are to be applauded significantly for that. And I hope you continue to do this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Give my regards to the family and to your mom.
I certainly will.
Good night, my brother.
My brother, stay good. Peace and all the best for the season.
All the best, man. Claim your inheritance.
I will claim my inheritance.
All right, good night.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, bye.